Hi, welcome back to art class. This is Mrs. Poel. So today we have a little guest right here. This is my baby Holly, and she's going to be running around while I do the video. And also we have a kitty in the background right here. So if you hear any voices or noises, just know that it's one of those two, so you don't have to worry. So today we're going to be working with two...
Can I have a puppy?
Yes, you can. Today we're going to be working with two ideas. One is observing. Observing means to carefully look at something. And the other is shapes. And that is one of the elements of art, and we will review that.
But first, it's art history time.
Hello, Leonardo.
Well, hello there.
So today we're going to also be talking about the artist Leonardo da Vinci because he was a master of observing. Observing means to look carefully at something. And it is a very important task for artists because it allows us to look at the shapes, look at the textures, and draw or paint them accurately. And also observing the world around us gives us inspirations and ideas for our artwork. Leonardo da Vinci is an Italian artist, and he is a Renaissance painter. Renaissance artwork is usually very, very realistic because they did not have photographs at that time. So they painted instead of taking pictures to preserve images. He had interest in a lot of things. He was a scientist, a mathematician, he painted, he sculpted, and he also invented a lot of things. Some of his most famous paintings include the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, and this big horse sculpture that's in the Meyer Garden. It's not by Leonardo da Vinci, but it was inspired by his drawings. And here's the original drawing that he did. You can see that he really looks carefully to the types of muscles that the horses have and how they stand. And that really shows in his artwork that he is a great observer. Now let's review the element of shape. The element of shape is one of the elements of art, which are the little parts that make up an artwork. Last week, if you're at Thornapple Elementary, Mrs. Hayes reviewed the element of line. So today we're going to move on to shape. If you're at Meadow Elementary, we have been talking about shapes and lines. And a quick review is that lines have a beginning and an end, and shapes are closed. If it's open, it's a line, and if it's closed, it is a shape. The reason why I'm combining the idea of observing and the element of shape for this week's lesson is because it is very important to be able to observe the shapes and in order to draw accurately. So today it's going to be a drawing lesson, but if you would like to apply some of your painting skills, that is okay too. Now I'm going to show you how you can use shapes to draw accurately. When you see something like this, you might think that it's a really hard drawing to do, but if you look at the simple shapes that you can see in the object, it's actually not that hard. You see a circle for the head, an oval for the body, kind of a rectangle shape for the arms, and for the legs, and more ovals for the nose. The mouth is like a crescent shape, like a moon. More ovals. The feet are made up of some lines, but they're really similar to three ovals connected together. Even the hands that look a little bit more complicated, there's an oval for the thumb and for the palm, and each of the fingers are ovals. That drawing that I just showed you might look kind of complicated, but just ask yourself, can you draw ovals? Can you draw rectangles? Can you draw some crescent shapes? Can you connect them together with a few lines? I'm sure you guys can say yes to all of those. That is pretty much all I did in that video that I just showed you. And I would like you guys to try that out. And that is going to be this week's assignment. The first step of this week's assignment is to pick your subject matter. A subject matter is what your artwork is about. And I would like you guys to pick something around your house, and it can be anything. You guys can pick whatever you feel like you want to draw, but I want you to pick something that's 3D. So a toy would work really well, a stuffed animal, something that you care about that is 3D. I would like you guys to pick that as your subject matter. The second step of your project is to really observe the shapes that you see in your objects. So I just showed you the kind of shapes in my video earlier, but there's circles, there's ovals, there's a crescent. I would like you guys to do the same with your object. Once you observe your object and you know what kind of shapes you're going to need to use to draw it, it's time to start to draw. First, draw the bigger shapes that you observed in your object. I'm going to start with the head with the circle because that is one of the bigger shapes that I see. Then lightly sketch in the rest of the shapes. In the beginning, don't worry too much about the little details. Try to focus on the bigger shapes that you see. Once you have the bigger shapes drawn out, then you can start to add the details like the face and the fingers, toes, those little parts. Then you're going to want to trace over your sketch with a darker pencil line. For my artwork, I decided to trace over the pencil line with Sharpie marker to make it a little bit easier for you guys to see what I'm doing, and also because I'm planning on adding a little bit of paint to my finished piece. Now that we're finished with the drawing, we're going to be adding a background. A background is something around your picture to show where that person is and what that person, or in this case, our Muppet, is doing. And I would like you guys to think about the movie Toy Story if you've seen it. In Toy Story, during the nighttime or when the kids aren't looking, the toys move and go on adventures. So think about where your toy or whatever object that you drew is going to, what is it going to be doing when you're not looking. So when I look at this picture, I see that this guy has his finger pointing. And I envision him in a field. There's going to be a butterfly right here. And he's going to be holding something in his hand I haven't decided yet. So I will show you how we're going to add our background. I started by adding my butterfly first. So I'm sketching it in. And then I added a horizon line. Remember that a horizon line separates the sky and the ground. Then I added some texture of the grass in the field and some flowers. I decided that he was going to be holding a flower. Now I'm switching back to my Sharpie marker to trace over my pencil lines. When you work on your project, feel free to pick whatever art medium you have and would like to use. You can do all drawing, or you can paint, or you can color with markers. It's all up to you. For color, I decided to use crayons. When you use crayons, make sure that you press down pretty hard so that you get that nice bright color and great coverage, and also try to cover all the way to the lines. When you're coloring your object, try to observe the color of your object and pick the right colors that matches as best as you can. Turning your paper while coloring is sometimes a good idea because it makes it a little bit easier to cover in different directions. If your object has any texture, like my little guy has some fur texture, try and add that by adding a little bit of lines on top of your coloring too. For the sky, I decided to do some crayon resist. Crayon resist is when you draw with crayon first and use some watercolor paint on top to let the crayon show through. Now I'm adding some water to my watercolor tray to paint the ground and the sky. Remember to add enough water to your watercolor tray so that your paintbrush can soak up the diluted watercolor paint. Now I'm adding the watercolor paint to the sky, and you can see that the clouds are showing through where I added the white crayons.
Remember that the goal for this project is to be able to observe the shapes. That means to carefully look at the shapes that you can find in the object that you're drawing. Once you're done drawing, then feel free to envision, use your imagination to decide where your object is going to be in your drawing, like mine was in the field. Once you're finished with your work, please share your work with me through office hours or emailing me or through the Artsonia app. I'm very excited to see what you guys come up with. Thank you for watching.